If you are pregnant or you've recently had a baby, this podcast is for you. I am your host, Kath Bequee, a physiotherapist working in women's health and mum of 3. Join me each week as we dive into all things pregnancy care, childbirth and postnatal recovery, helping you have a wonderful pregnancy and afterbirth experience. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Fitness Mama podcast. So today we are discussing how to prioritize exercise as a new mum. And I am joined with Accountability Coach Kell Quarrell. So it was fantastic to talk to Kell today. I reckon everyone, whether or not you're pregnant or a new mum or you're months or years down the track, in today's episode we talk about how it is very easy as a mum or approaching motherhood to go to the bottom of the to-do list. So Kell talks us through how to set ourselves up for self-accountability. She talks us through some tips to help us prioritize our exercise, or whether or not it's exercise or you time or me time, whatever it is. So I do talk a lot about exercise, but you can use the valuable information that Kell shares in this episode with any aspect that you want to help be more accountable on. So Kell shares how to set ourselves up for self-accountability, how to help prioritize ourselves, and easy ways to help put us in the diary. So I trust you're going to get a lot of value out of this session today. So Kell has worked with women in the past 25 years in different industries. Kell is a coach and speaker who supports and empowers women with accountability and transformational strategies so they can take control of their mindset, step into their confidence, and live a passionate, fulfilled life. So trust you're going to love this episode. Before we do get stuck into it, I want to remind you, if you're pregnant, we have this pregnancy preparing your body for birth checklist. So it's a free checklist. Simply head to fitnessmama.com/free and you'll see where to download this checklist, where you can answer some really simple yes/no questions to help be that first step in terms of preparing your body for birth. So head to fitnessmama.com/free. And now let's get into the episode. So Kell, thank you so much for joining me today on the Fitness Mama podcast. I'm so excited to chat about this topic.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Could you start off with letting us know a little bit about yourself? Because you've got quite an interesting role, I have to say. So I'd love to let the listeners know more about you.
Yeah, sure. Well, I am a mum. I'm a mum of 2 girls who are 13 and 11. I have done many things, I feel, in my lifetime. Namely, I am a beauty therapist and had an Alabache franchise for 10 and a half years. Yeah, while I was doing beauty therapy, I also became a personal stylist. So I have my own personal styling business as well. And then I went into facilitating and co-creating and presenting live women's workshops and retreats. And through that also became a women's coach. Due to COVID and things changing in life, we decided to end our live events business. And now I've stepped into the role of being a women's accountability coach.
Yes, and when I saw that, my ears pricked. What do they say? Pricked forward? Pricked up. Because it's probably the number one thing. I find a lot of mums want to start exercising. So for those that are listening, we're going to be talking about tips to really help support your postnatal rehab and help you to achieve your goals and have some time out and you time, and helping to prioritize that. Because I feel once we become mums, as you know, life gets busy, and I feel like life just seems to be getting busier and busier as well. I didn't think that would be possible, but it's just crazy, and it's so easy for us to fall to the bottom of the to-do list. And when we're talking about our postnatal fitness and exercise, it's so easy for that to fall to the bottom of the to-do list. So that's why I'm excited to chat.
Yeah, and I mean, I totally agree. The years just seem to kind of speed past us, and then all of a sudden, we're now thinking, gosh, it's Christmas around the corner, and, different things like that. And I feel like when we want to commit to something but life is busy, when it is for ourselves as women, we tend to put it at the lowest priority and put everything above that. But with your listeners, and obviously the importance of them stepping back into really getting their health and their fitness at a level, it's so important.
And I was just talking to some members about this today, actually. We were talking about their goals. So, what do you want to get back to doing after you've had a baby? Some want to get back into pole dancing. Some want to get back into running. Some want to just go for lovely long walks with the pram. But it doesn't matter how much we plan this and we talk through the steps. I think it was Nelson Mandela that said, a plan without action is just a dream.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's lots of variations to that quote as well. So let's talk about the action part today. It's exciting.
Yeah, it is. And I think what you've just spoken about is so important. It's vital that they have a very clear, defined goal of what it is that they want to get back into after having a baby, but also why. Why is it that goal? Because sometimes, just going back to what it is that we used to do before children is not a big enough drive to get us into the action. So really understanding, why is that the goal? What is it about that running, pole dancing, walks on the beach? What is that going to really give you? And why is that going to be enough to get you into actions? I think understanding the why. And then the real important piece of the puzzle, I believe, as an accountability coach that is often missed, is understanding why you do the things that you do and how do you operate. Because without understanding how it is that we operate as human beings, we are also unique. We are also individual. If we don't understand that, then we can't set up our life to best support our strengths and then also to improve upon our limitations.
Interesting. So what you've just said, I think I sort of say it in a different way. You've talked about, you've got your goals, but then you also need to think about how you operate. So I call that my baseline. So where are you at the moment?
Yes.
What are your challenges? Are you sleep deprived? Are you fatigued, low energy, or perhaps you just don't have much time, or you don't have any you time, like you're always with your baby? Yeah. So I love that, because not until you acknowledge that baseline, or as you said, what word did you say?
How best you operate.
Operate. That's right. Yeah.
And it's so important to be very clear on what season of life you are in. Like, I know your listeners are, coming out of just having a baby, but are they in baby one, or do they already have other children? Like, everyone's still going to be in a different season of their life. And it's being realistic as to, what do I currently have on my plate that I need to be able to manage, as well as then be able to put myself on that plate to be able to fit in and around what I'm already doing. And that's why I always say that everyone's daily routine, morning routine, structure, strategy, plan, whatever you want to call it, needs to be individualized based on what it is that you already have, which is clearly what you're talking about, your baseline.
Yeah. So can you elaborate on what you were just saying in terms of, when you're talking about the plate, and you need to work out what's already on the plate so that you can then work out what else to put on the plate? I might have totally just said that wrong, but could you elaborate on that concept? Because
Absolutely.
I think that's a great one.
Yeah. So the women that I work with, I work a lot on coaching them about finding out what is the best morning routine, let's just say that component of their day, that's going to support them to be their most effective throughout the day. Now, I don't tell women or my clients, what time they should get up, what they should do, when they should do it, in what order, for how long, because what works for me is going to be very different to what works for you, Catherine, and it's going to be the same with your listeners, because I have 11 and 13-year-old girls that are quite capable of me saying, time to get up, and then they go about their morning themselves. They get their own lunch. They're capable of getting their own breakfast. That's going to be very different to someone that has a 5-month-old baby that, they are the only person they require. So it's understanding what season of life are you in? What is currently on your plate? How many children do you have? How much time realistically can you spend on your health and fitness routine? What else needs to be done? Is there going to be other duties that you need to do in order for you to be able to manage your day? That's going to differ greatly between woman to woman. So for me, it's like, let's get really clear on what is it that we need to manage so that we can then put ourselves into the mix and then set ourselves up for success, rather than like, oh, well, I'll just forget about me and I'll go to the bottom of the list again.
Yeah, I totally resonate with this. I do remember before I'd had babies, I was pregnant for the first time. My idea of exercise would be to go and do an hour-long workout, or go for a run, or meet a friend and go for a walk for an hour. And I remember distinctly the shift that I had to make as a new mum. It's like, oh, I don't think I'm going to be able to do that today or this week. And
correct,
having to shift. It was a huge mindset shift. It's okay, today I'm going to do 10 minutes with my baby next to me, and that's awesome. And I do remember once I finally switched, it wasn't because for a little while I was thinking, I was frustrated that I couldn't do what I used to be able to do. Or as you said, it was a season of my life. And when I guess what you said, identified what was on my plate, it then took away the pressure. It made me feel good about doing my 10 little minute bursts here and there with my bubs. Yeah, so big mindset shift. So I think what you just said is really valuable.
Yeah, and I always say it's about identifying what's going to give you the biggest return on investment. And I'll say that a lot to my clients, whether or not I'm coaching one-on-one or in a group. It's like understanding, if you want to be able to move your body, realistically, what time are you going to allow yourself daily, twice, every second day, however many times a week, and do what is going to give you the best return for the amount of time that you have. And prime example, I used to say, gone are the days maybe for this season of your life of being able to go and do a 1-hour class or going to do an hour run. It is going to be the lounge room floor for 10 minutes doing what is going to give you the biggest return of that time that you have available. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And that's why I created my program, is because with, 3 children, I realised, this was pre-COVID, that we just couldn't. It was so hard to go and exercise.
Yeah, absolutely.
I worked at the time. I remember working in a physio clinic. I had Pilates, reformer Pilates there and able, and I could just go and do it, but I still couldn't. I found it a real challenge. So everyone is going to be different, and everyone does have their challenges and, different number of children's and priorities. But
absolutely.
Yeah, everything that you've just said is fantastic.
Yes. Yeah, and everyone, like, you'll have women that have businesses, or ones that might be single mums, or there's just so many varying factors that each individual woman needs to be very clear on what it is that they need to fit into or onto their plate.
This episode is brought to you by Baby Bee, Australian-owned and designed prams combining quality, safety and style. Not only does Baby Bee let you try their prams at home with free returns for 9 months, yes, that's 9 months, they also offer an industry-leading 3-year warranty for total peace of mind. With thousands of 5-star reviews, around-the-clock customer care, and up to $300 of free accessories with every pram. What are you waiting for? Go visit www.babybeonline.com and check them out for yourself. And yes, for listeners of the podcast, there is a 20% discount code. Enter FITBEE, FITBEE 20 at checkout, and T's and C's apply.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say we have a lady listening who's pregnant. I'm going to give you a couple of scenarios.
Oh, yeah.
I've just suddenly thought of this.
Do it.
These podcasts are so well planned. No, but let's say, because this is, I'm sure there's a listener right now listening, and they're working full time. You know, they're having to create a nursery. They haven't bought any cots, and they've got appointments, doctor's appointments and midwife appointments, and they're just finding it's the time factor. For that lady listening today, can you give 3 tips to her to help her, I guess, identify like what we've talked about, and to help her make some actionable plans?
Yeah, sure. So the first thing that I would say is, for me, the trusty pen and paper is always your friend. Whether or not you like running to a schedule, you like planning ahead or not, when you're stepping into anything that is new, be it that you're going to have a child that is going to be fully dependent on you, if you're running, working full time, you've got all of these things that you're being pulled in different directions. It's about being very, very clear on what are the really key priorities that are time bound that you need to get done, and you need to be able to structure your time in order for you to be able to step out of the overwhelm so you can step into action. Because when we're overwhelmed, we do nothing. It just becomes all too much. So I would be saying to that lady, get the pen and paper out, write down everything that you can think of that you need to actually do before Bub arrives. And then from that list, I would categorize each thing into what area of life does that fall under? Does that fall under work? Does it fall under family? Does it fall under friends?
Self.
Yep. So
wellness.
Where does it fall? Then from there, what is truly priority? And what is it that only I can do? Because we want to move into only doing the things that only I can do. So what can be delegated? What is kind of probably not really important, but has got tied up in the hamster wheel thought process because things are getting, erratic and busy, and that's what I would do. And then I would actually schedule those things into my weekly diary, whether or not that's digitally or manually, because then you can very logically see, without the heightened emotion of the overwhelm, okay, where are my pockets of time now that I can just step out and say, I'm spending 5 minutes, 10 minutes just on me. But it's when we have it all up in our heads and it's very busy and it's very loud, then we literally can go into like catastrophizing type of language and thought processes. Oh my God, this baby's going to come and I'm going to have nothing done. And it's about writing it all down, logically looking at it. What can I delegate if there is anything? How do I structure this into my week or weeks coming? And then where can I find time for myself to ensure that my own health and mental well-being is cared for within that week?
Yeah, I love that. And I feel that this is something, you correct me if I'm wrong, but you might need to review every few months because the situation keeps changing. And
as I coach my clients to review weekly. So whether or not they review on a Friday or a Sunday, they choose whenever it suits them. But it's like, let's look at, how did the week go? What worked really well? What didn't? What challenges arose? Why did the things work that and why didn't they work? Like, just a bit of a review, not a long time, like literally 5 minutes. What did I set out to do? What didn't I get done? those types of things. And then let's go, okay, so next week, what do I need to plan for next week? And so literally that can be 5 to 10 minutes a week, but it can really give that sense of, okay, I'm in control. I know what's coming up. And then when things come up that are not in the schedule, it's okay because you have it laid out. You can see what it is that you've got ahead, and you can be like, okay, well, I'm going to have to move that from that spot to put that in. And it's kind of like a little bit of a, sometimes a bit of a Tetris game because there's a lot on. But absolutely long-term stuff and the bigger goals, you want to be connecting back in every couple of months, because particularly for your listeners, like as they have a baby, those first 6 weeks are like, you kind of wake up 6 weeks later and go, what planet have I been on? And then, things tend to get a little bit easier there. And then all of a sudden there's all sorts of things, that happen with children and family and businesses and work. And so, you do have to be connecting back.
And what, like in terms of communication with your partner, how much of a role do they have? Because I can imagine a lot of what you're saying. Like if it hadn't have been for my husband, I don't think I would have done half the exercise that I'd done, just to have him on board so that he can look after the kids when I do a workout or whatever it might be. So, at what stage and how often do you say checking in with your partner, or is that very individual too?
I would say that's individual based on your relationship, but I would be saying as often as possible, because there's going to be women that will need the accountability help from their partner as well. Until you can't find motivation anywhere else. Like you need to be committed, you need to be consistent, you need to be disciplined in coming to your own rescue, really. But if you know that is something that is of a weakness of yours, then you talk to your partner about them holding you accountable by being there to support you with the family or the chores or whatever it is that you are asking of them, so that if they stay committed to helping you, then you kind of lose the excuse of, oh, well, I can't do it, because it's like, well, no, I'm here. And so now it's up to us to then uphold our end of the bargain because they are. So it's about being honest. It's about being honest to say, I'm probably going to struggle getting back into my exercise or getting back into what it is that I need to do post-bub, but I know how important it is for my health and well-being. Can you support me by, 3 times a week being home at this time to do whatever it is that you need them to do?
Yeah, love that. Now, I often talk to my mums as well about in terms of building it up gradually, but also small chunks at a time. What have you got to say in terms of when starting a new habit, trying to start off with something that's just relatively easy to slot into your lifestyle, and then you build it up from there? For example, 5 minutes of stretches or exercises and then building it up.
Yeah, it is exactly what you just said, Catherine. It is about, when I am working with women about creating a new morning routine, or for some of them, their first ever morning routine, it is about choosing one thing and one thing only, and doing that repetitively to, one, make sure it's giving them the outcome of what they're wanting to achieve. So it is that they are feeling the way that they want to feel from doing said thing. And then either extending upon that time-wise, or maybe then stacking or layering a second thing on top of that. But absolutely one thing at a time to prevent overwhelm. It's important to get the quick win. It's like, okay, yes, I can do this. Then you get that momentum, right? And then you get that feeling of success. And so it's important to set yourself up for success from the start. The minute that you try to do too much is when we get into overwhelm. And as I said before, when we're in overwhelm, we do nothing. So it goes back to all of the planning you do, all of the looking at what it is that you already have on your plate, what is realistic that you can fit in, and then just focus on doing that. When you've started to solidify that into your routine, if you want to build upon that time-wise or you want to do something on top of that, again, it's about going very slow and just making sure that you're not putting too much on the plate and then failing, because that's generally where we start to lose our own momentum.
Yeah, love that. So to summarise everything you've talked about, getting your goals, but more importantly, your why, like why do you want to do this? And then getting pen onto paper and writing down what's on your plate and how you can fit into your plate.
Yes.
And then I guess those two things encompass a lot of it, doesn't it?
It really does. And then from there, it's like once you're very clear on what is it that you need to fit into your days and then obviously your weeks, it's like where are the gaps and where you need to be able to schedule yourself into your day. And for some women, it won't be every day. For some women, it'll be 3 times a week. That's perfect. But make sure it's in there. Yeah. And then I always say to my clients is know exactly what it is that you're going to do with the time that you've set yourself. So with your program, it's like be very clear on what it is of the program you're going to do on that day. So you don't spend the 5 minutes in decision fatigue, floundering, and, you just want to be like, get in, get it done. And then, we tick that box and we can move on to the next thing. So, it's knowing your goals, knowing your why, really understanding what it is that you already have on your plate, scheduling yourself into your day or your week, wherever it fits, and being very clear on how it is that you are going to spend that time based on how it is you want to feel and what is it that's going to give you that feeling.
That's right. The return on investment, as you talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Love it. Fantastic. I think like what we've talked about, exercise after birth, we can extrapolate this to anything, just any you time or wellness activity, whatever works for you. So, there's been some great takeaways there. Thank you. To finish off with, do you have any final, tips or words of wisdom for pregnant or new mums listening to today?
That's a good question. I would say so many women lose themselves after having children. Like as a beauty therapist, as a personal stylist, as a women's coach, like I've worked with women for over 25 years and the story has always been the same. I was the same. I really lost my identity after having children because I feel like we fall into the trap of just becoming a mum. And so my advice would be is to make sure you are in your own diary at least 3 times a week so that you are putting time and energy and emotion into yourself, because it's inevitable we will change after having children, but you don't want to completely lose yourself. And by having yourself in your own diary, you will be able to stay connected with your needs and what it is that you're going through and how you are evolving, and hopefully in the end will not feel completely lost. You'll just really be staying in tune with yourself.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, that's the perfect way to end. For those who have listened and want to find out a little bit more about you, Kell, how can they find you?
I am probably most on Instagram. I hang out there most of the time, or my website. My Instagram handle is just Kell Quarrell, so KELLQUARRERELL, and my website is kellquarrell.com.au.
And I'll put those links in the show notes.
Yay!
Thank you so much, Kell. We've packed a lot of punch into that short episode, some great take-homes there. So I trust the listeners also got a lot of value. So thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, Catherine. I've loved it. Thank you.
Okay, I'll catch you soon.
Bye.
Before I sign off, remember my team and I will be putting together the show notes for this episode with all the links, including how to connect with Kell at fitnessmama.com/podcast. Have a fabulous day, ladies, and I look forward to you joining me next week for another episode of the Fitness Mama podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Fitness Mama podcast, brought to you by the Fitness Mama freebies found at www.fitnessmama.com/free. So please take a few seconds to leave a review, subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and be sure to take a screenshot of this podcast, upload it to your social media, and tag me at Fitness Mama so I can give you a shout out too. Until next time, remember, an active pregnancy, confident childbirth, and strong postnatal recovery is something that you deserve. Remember our disclaimer, materials and contents in this podcast are intended as general information only and shouldn't substitute any medical advice, diagnosis or treatment. I'll see you soon.